Good afternoon everyone, we are the Group 1. So ang i-report po namin ay rural banks. Na pinaka magpo-focus po kami ay sa Car Bank Incorporation. First, ako po mag-report, Rural Bank, followed by Ms. Bardola and Mr. Kaponpon. 102 Rural Bank in the Philippines, followed by Mr. Fernando and Mr. Gutierrez, Car Bank Incorporation. Next, Mr. Nalumen, Card MRI Bank Incorporation. Next, Ms. Braga and Ms. Mendaje, Card SME Bank Incorporation. Lastly, Ms. Arenciada and Ms. Cruzales, Services, Offers, and Award of Card Bank. Kung may question po kayo sa report namin or sa Card Bank, pwede nyo po ito itanong after the video presentation. So, let's get started. Rural Bank, a government-sponsored assisted banks which are privately managed and largely privately owned that provide credit facilities to farmers and merchants or to cooperative of such farmers or merchants at reasonable terms and in general to the people of the rural community, micro, small, and medium enterprises. So, ito yung bangkong naglalayong tulungan ang mga magsasaka upang magkaroon sila ng puhunan or ng panimula. At dagdag ko lang na itatag ito noong 1952 sa pamamagitan ng Batas Republika bilang 720. History of Rural Bank in the Philippines. In 1955, the RBAP was founded as a non-incorporated association of rural financial institutions led by Alfredo Montelibano Sr. of the Rural Bank of Bacolod City. Representatives of the original 18-member rural banks formed a voluntary association following these guiding principles. To promote the general welfare and safeguard the common interest of rural bankers. So dito po, upang maitaguyod ang pangkahalatang kapakanan at pangalagaan ang karaniwang interes ng mga rural bankers. Next, to work for the proper and effective implementation of the laws and regulations of rural bank. Dito naman po ay para maging maayos at mabisa ang pagpapatupad ng mga batas at regulasyon ng mga rural banks. Next, to study and devise ways and means of making rural bank facilities more responsive to the needs of the people in rural areas. So, dito naman daw po, kailangan nilang pag-aralan at pag-isipan ang mga paraan upang gawing mas madaling tumugon ang mga kanilang pasilidad sa bangko sa kanayunan, lalo na sa pangangailangan ng mga tao. Next, to act as a medium in the dissemination and operation of rural banks, to initiate and develop a program of activities to stir up rural bank consciousness, and in general, to foster goodwill and mutual understanding among its members. So, dito naman daw po, kailangan kumilos bilang isang daluyan sa pagpapalaganap at pagpapatakbo ng mga bangko, lalo na upang maitaguyod ang mabuting kalooban at pag-unawa sa bawat miyembro nito. On June 28, 1957, the association penned and submitted its articles of incorporation to the Securities and Exchange Commission. 2 months after, the RBAP was issued with its certificate of incorporation with the following as incorporators: Jose S. Rodriguez ng Pasig Rizal, Jose E. Desiderio, Caloocan Rizal, Florencio M. Garcia, Calibo Ocalan, Conrado V. Lugo, Dingguang Misamis Oriental, Eduardo A. Barreto, Canlubang Laguna, Crisologo T. Zarete, Dagupan City, Pangasinan, Gregorio Concon, Tagbilaran, Bohol, Procorpio C. Reyes, Pasay City, Patricio Y. Pineda, Concepcion, Tarlac, Jose R. Platon, Alaminos, Pangasinan, David F. Alegre, Cavite City, Cavite. So, yung 11 na nabanggit ko ay yung first board of directors ng RBAP. Galing sa resolution dated April 21, 1958. Tapos yung natirang 4 naman po na sina Sergio F. Nagiat ng Angeles, Pampanga, Eugenio M. Villanueva, Imus, Cavite, Jose R. Segimundo, Lipa, Batangas, Amado Gonzales ng Balanga, Bataan ay mga incorporators na voted as directors, thus increasing directorship of 15 which is presented follow. Presidents of RBAP who invariably distinguished themselves as champions of rural banking development succeeded the leadership of Mr. Montelibano. So, ulitin ko lang po, June 1952 yung enactment of Republic Act 720 which established rural banks in the Philippines. The purpose of implementing policies. In view of the importance of rural banking in rural and agricultural development, central government banks granted incentives to organizers of rural banks. Such as incentives include the tax exemptions and nominal interest rates. So dito naman, ipinagkakaloob ng central government banks yung mga incentives sa mga organizers ng rural banks, gaya ng pagkalibre ng buwis at saka nominal lang yung kanilang interest rates. Bakit kaya sa tingin nyo? Para sa akin, pinagkaloob ito ng central bank sa mga organizers ng rural banks kasi hindi naman ganun kalakihan yung kita. Kaya meron silang incentives. Kumbaga, ang pinaka-main purpose din ng rural bank is para makapag-umpisa yung mga magsasaka. Ito naman po yung mga qualifications. First, Filipino citizenship of good moral character and integrity, financial capacity in their own rights to meet their commitments, good credit standing, and not convicted of any crime involving moral turpitude. So dito, syempre, mamamayang Pilipino na dapat mayroong mabuting pagkatao. At saka syempre, yung financial capacity. Halos lahat naman sa mga bangko, ito yung isa talaga sa isa sa mga tinitingnan. Kung meron silang yung stable na kinikita para ma-meet or mabayadan yung kanilang ipinangako or commitments na kailangan bayadan. At syempre, hindi po sila na-involve or wala silang kahit anong crime. The rural bank shall have a paid-up capital of not less than 500,000, the initial amount of 300,000 to be put up the start of operations, and remaining 200 to be paid within a period of 3 years from the start of operation. Po dito, ang pinapahiram ng rural banks is not less than 500,000. Tapos yung initial na 300,000 po, kumbaga mapupunta po siya dun sa operation or sa activity na gagawin. Tapos yung remaining 200,000 naman po ay babayadan within 3 years mula nung nag-umpisa yung operation. The authorized capital of the rural bank shall not be less than 1 million and shall be divided into common and preferred stock, both with par value of from 10 peso to 100 peso per share. Directors and officers, the president and at least a majority of the key executive officers of the bank must be actual residents of the locality where the rural bank is operating. So, sinasabi na dapat po ang presidente at ang majority na officers ng bangko ay residente kung saan man po nakatayo ang rural bank. Consanguinity or affinity. Key executive officers such as the president, vice president, manager, treasurer, cashier, and accountant must not be related to one another. So, dapat hindi po sila magkakadugo. Wala silang kahit anong marriage relationship, ganun po. No individual or family group. Those related within third degree of consanguinity or affinity shall own or control more than 35% of the voting shares upon organization of the rural bank. So dito, dapat wala pong family group. Dapat, kung meron man pong family group, yung voting share po nila, hindi po dapat ito tataas ng 35%. No officer or director of a rural bank can be an officer or director of another rural bank. So, kunyari, ako po, officer ako dito sa Santo Tomas, sa rural bank. So, hindi na po ako pwede maging officer pa sa San Pablo. Kumbaga, parang mas ma-focus ko lang po kung saan ka naka-base. Persons connected in the government, whether by election or appointment, cannot serve as officer of the rural bank. So, yung mga tao po na mayroon silang connection sa government or even sa mga COMELEC ay hindi po sila pwedeng mag-serve sa rural bank. So, para po sa akin, sa pagkakaintindi ko, ginagawa itong mga ito or mayroon gantong rule para maiwasan yung corruption. So, halimbawa nga naman po, kung mag-asawa kayo, tapos parehas kayong officer, kumbaga yung desisyon ng isa, yun na din yung magiging desisyon mo. So, parang mas na aano pa yung kanilang, kunyari merong pumbotahan, tapos no individual group. Oo nga naman, kung kayo ay magkakapamilya, so parang ang mangyayari, yung boto nyo as one na lang. Kumbaga, isa yung magiging desisyon nyo. Tapos, mas problema pa kung mas malaki yung percent ng share nila. Kasi, kumbaga, kahit na hindi naman yun dapat yung maging desisyon, iyon yung magiging desisyon kasi iyon yung nanalo sa botohan. So, para sa akin po, maganda yung pagkakaayos para sa directors and officers sa rural bank. Functions of rural bank. A rural bank may offer or perform any or all the following services. First, grant loans and make investments in accordance with existing rules and regulations. Accept savings and time deposits, sell domestic drafts, act as correspondent for other financial institutions. Fifth, receive in custody funds, documents, and other valuable objects, and rent safety deposit boxes for the safeguarding of such objects. 6. Act as financial agent, buy and sell, by order of and for the account of its customer, shares, evidences of indebtedness, and all types of securities. Lastly, make collections and payments for the account of other and perform such other services for its customers as are not incompatible with banking business. Next naman po ay ang top 5 rural bank in the Philippines. Pinakauna ay Bank of Makati. First and only rural bank to get into business profile list of the top 500 corporations in the Philippines based on gross revenues in 2010. It is number 266 on the list. Tapos ang kanilang pong number of offices ay 27. Ang kanilang head office or main office ay sa Barangay San Isidro, Makati City. Nag-start po yung kanilang operation noong September 22, 1956. Sister company sila ng Motor Trade, Honda, Prestige Traders, Fundline Finance Corporation, and Global Reciprocal Colleges. So, sila din yung rural bank na nag-participate sa Bankers, Builders, Buyers Program Housing Loan Program of the Home Guarantee Corporation. Second naman ay One Network Bank. Largest rural bank network in Mindanao, will have 97 branches after it completes its merger with 6-branch Rural Bank of San Enrique in Iloilo. Ang kanilang main office or head office ay sa Sasa, Davao City. Number of offices po nila is 86. So, noong year 2011, sila yung SSS, Best Collecting Rural Bank and Best Paying Rural Bank. Pangatlo naman po ay ang Card Bank, a microfinance-oriented rural bank. One of the 7 signatories in the creation of country's Microfinance Credit Bureau, first microfinance NGO to become a rural bank. At ang kanilang head office po ay sa El Quezon Street City Subdivision, San Pablo City, Laguna. Akalain mo nga naman, dito pala sa San Pablo ang main office ng Card Bank. Ngayon ko lang nalaman. Tapos, ang kanilang number of offices is 49. Tapos, nag-start ang Card Bank Incorporation noong September 1, 1997. Pang-apat naman po ay First Valley Bank. Ang kanilang main office ay sa Baroy, Lanao del Norte, Vameta Boulevard, corner Leo Street, Carmen, Cagayan de Oro City. Tapos, ang number of branches po nila or offices is 22 branches and 8 financial solution centers. At ang panlima naman po ay ang Bangko Kabayan, the only Eagle Achievement Awardee for 2011 by the Rural Bankers Association of the Philippines, Microenterprise Access of Banking Services, won award for the 7th time. Akalaan nyo nga, ma'am. 7 beses na silang nanalo sa Eagle Achievement Awardee. Tapos, was established as Ibaan Rural Bank in August 1957. And ito ay naging Bangko Kabayan on its 40th year. Most outstanding countryside financial institution in Region 4A, Land Bank 2012 CFI Awards. Ang kanilang head office po ay sa Santiago Street, Poblacion, Ibaan, Batangas. Hindi ko alam kung saan yun dito sa Batangas. Number of offices po nila ay 16. Tapos dagdag ko lang, year 2008, sinag-rank sila ng top 3 rural bank in the Philippines.